Eileo guys, and welcome back to part 3 of the, actually, it's not even part 3. Actually, no, it is part 3. I'm crazy. Welcome back to part 3 of the Rune analysis videos. I definitely hope you guys are enjoying this. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe this video. It definitely helps so much. And if you haven't seen the other past 2 videos, I definitely implore you to at least view them just so you get an overall idea of what I'm talking about and you have a better understanding of what I'm about to go into. But anyways, let's go ahead and take off from where I left the video at before. Now we have Varia, whatever the heck you want to call her. And for Varia, her main runes were a bit undecided, unfortunately. Like, there's a lot of players just running multiple things on her where I don't really feel comfortable telling you guys what they use. But like any other assassin at this point, I would say Rampage is probably a very, very safe bet for her. Once again, her sub-runes unfortunately were all over the place once again, but the census told me that it's physical attack and critical damage. The same subs were applied to her equipment, so physical attack and critical damage subs on her equipment as well. And then next up we have Aaron, aka Aaron. Her main rune I found to be was HP recovery. And HP recovery would proc after a certain drop in HP, so you can keep that in mind. I'm not really sure if that's the best one for her or not. I think that debuffing after taking a hit would be better for her, but it's really dependent on how you choose to use her. Her sub-runes focused mainly on evasion and shorter skill cooldowns. I mean, some had magical defense and critical damage, but from what I could tell, like, evasion and shorter skill cooldowns were 100% like her go-to ones, at least for a PvP situation. Her equipment subs were once again all over the place. Some people used different types of defense, so some use all defense, some use physical defense, some use magical defense, while others once again focused on evasion. For Massey Olin, her main rune once again was Rampage, while her subs focused heavily on extra skill damage, critical damage, and magical attack. I cannot tell you how much extra skill damage I've seen on these freaking runes of people going in with her, but extra skill damage was number 1 on the list, followed by critical damage and magical attack, and then her equipment subs were about the same as well. There was a major focus on extra skill damage with crit. Next up is Erie. Erie's main rune, of course, was Rampage, while his subs focused purely on extra skill damage and crit, so very, very identical to Massey Olin's builds. His equipment did the exact same thing, extra skill damage and crit, and it had a big focus on critical damage above anything else whenever possible. So all kinds of critical damage on Erie, all kinds. Next up was Killwell, where his main rune was once again all over the place, but I'm assuming once again Rampage will do the job for his main rune, that is. For his sub runes, it focused on extra skill damage with crit, while his equipment once again focused heavily on crit. All kinds of crit, my boys. Jayde's main rune is up for debate. There was no clear cut as to what to use for her. Does Rampage work? I don't know. I'm not sure. I just couldn't give you guys a definitive answer on her main rune. But her sub-runes focused on boosting her physical attack and critical damage, while the subs on her equipment focused more on physical attack and critical damage, so the same as her sub-runes for her equipment subs as well. Richard's main rune was one that buffed his physical defense when attacked, while his sub-runes focused on evasion and shorter skill cooldowns. So definitely all kinds of PvP Richards out there. His equipment also had a high focus on evasion, but instead of shorter skill cooldowns there, they also had focus on defensive subs. So evasion and defensive subs for his equipment, and then evasion and shorter skill downs for his sub-runes. Aqua, there's not really that much information to provide to you guys about Aqua because there's not that many players that invested into him, but his main rune once again was Rampage. I'm I'm assuming it's Rampage. I can't tell you if that's for sure, but I'm assuming it's Rampage. While his sub-runes focus on physical attack and then attack speed. But if things follow the trend, then he should actually be built with physical attack and critical damage. Once again, I don't have an Aqua built. There's not really enough information to gather on the dude, unfortunately. So I'm not 100% sure about that, but maybe you can't go wrong with Rampage. You can't go wrong with physical attack or attack speed. And you definitely can't go wrong with physical attack and then critical as well. Next up was Pang Gumbos, not Gumbos. Next up was Gumbo's runes. Unfortunately, there was not that much data on him. Just the same as Mubu, it doesn't seem like a lot of people have built him up, or a lot of people feel comfortable sharing what they have on him, which the game gives us the option to do that, so it is what it is. But due to his typing, I would say follow suit to Mubu and Dean, where you want to focus on just defense, or you could build him more attack base to get some more damage out of a defensive tanker, and then leave some all defense or main defense on his subs for not only his sub runes, but for his equipment. I mean, that's pretty much all I can tell you at this point for Pang, unfortunately. Next up was Jgo Mage's runes. His main rune, unfortunately, was all over the place. Like, people had all kinds of crazy runes on him, but I would say his main rune should be something that boosts his extra skill damage. That's what I'm assuming it will be. His sub should focus on either magical attack and crit, or evasion with shorter skill cooldowns. Really dependent on what you want from him and how you want to use him. And then once again, his equipment sub should follow the same pattern, where they're either magical attack and crit, or evasion and shorter skill cooldown. Again, this is just what I've saw. I'm not telling you if this is right or wrong. Next up is Achtung Wing. His runes, once again, were all over the place. Just crazy stuff. But as an offensive tanker, I'm assuming, once again, Rampage will be the go-to main rune for him. His sub-runes focus on extra skill damage for some, while others had focus on attack speed. So it's up to you to decide what you want to do with what you want Achtung Wing to do for you. But personally, I might build him with more crit or physical attack overall. That's personally what I would do. Is it right? I don't know. Who knows at this point? Who really knows, my boys? This is just data. Next up was Lily. And I'll go ahead and let you guys guess once again what her main rune was. Yep, that is correct. Her main rune was once again Rampage. While her sub-runes focus on physical attack and then critical attack amount, the subs for her equipment follow the same pattern. So physical attack and then critical attack amount subs on her equipment. But I did see some attack speed and physical attack in there too. But of course, a lot of people focus on the crit for her and the physical attack. For Huang Bopei's runes, his main rune was once again Rampage. Rampage is always the go-to rune for like majority of everyone that's not like a defensive tank. But his sub runes had focused on magical attack, and then his equipment subs were focused more on magical attack and attack speed. So again, mileage may vary on this one. It's really up to you to decide, but once again, sub runes were focused on magical attack, and then his equipment subs were focused on magical attack and then attack speed. Next up is Jango. Jango's main rune was focused on boosting his defense up, very similar to Richard, while his sub-runes focus on evasion with shorter skill cooldowns. Once again, very similar to Richard. His equipment focused on defense and evasion as well, so everyone's goal with Jango is pretty much to prevent him from getting hit in the first place. Keep that dude always moving. Next up is Julia. Julia's main rune was Rampage once again. Her sub-runes were focused on physical attack and then critical attack amount, while her equipment subs focus on physical attack and then critical damage as well. So basically physical attack for both her subs and her equipment, and then critical attack for both her subs and equipment. And congratulations, you now have Julia built. Bach, Bick, whatever the heck you want to call him. I'll call him B. But B's main rune was Rampage once again. His sub-runes either had magical attack and critical damage on them, or they had extra skill damage with crit. There is like a rough divide in between the two in terms of his sub-runes. His equipment subs made a big focus on critical damage above anything else, but they of course were also magical attack or extra skill damage as well. So mainly what I saw was that his sub-runes were in line with the subs on his equipment. There wasn't like a magical attack and critical damage / extra skill damage and crit builds on him. It was like either magical attack and crit damage 100% or extra skill damage with crit 100%. Yeryung's main rune was a healing one, while her sub-runes were focused on evasion and shorter skill cooldowns. There was no other sub-runes that I could pick out for her that people used the most, but her sub-runes were focused on evasion and shorter skill cooldowns, while her equipment subs were all over the place. They were just absolutely everywhere, but from what I could gather, the majority of it was based on defense, all defense specifically, and then critical resist, which does not seem to hurt her at all. And since Dan has been introduced to the game as well at the time of this video, there's not any information on him. Like, let's check his rank out real quick. Yeah, his highest is 50k at the moment. There's not that much information on him since he just came out, but from what I can gather, you can't go wrong with having Rampage on him as his main rune, and then for his sub runes, either physical attack and crit like we've seen before, or maybe just physical attack and crit at this point, because he's basically like a physical version of Irene. So Noisy Rampage on him for his main rune, and then critical damage, and then extra skill damage for his sub runes, and then equipment subs. But that's pretty much it for this video, my boys. At the time of this video, this is everything that I saw. Bear in mind, this is all from the players I looked at and not myself. But from what I can gather, Rampage is the king of main runes, while depending on the character, boosting their physical attack or their magical attack, if they are a DPS with also critical damage, is also a very big thing. If they are a tank, then evasion and shorter skill cooldowns are a big focus. For support types, it seems just making them as tanky as possible, or building them with high evasion and shorter skill downs is the way to go. But I definitely hope this helps you guys with rune choices. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.